The quiet, the one that settles into the spaces between two people who used to share everything, had become the loudest thing in our home. It wasn't an empty quiet, it was filled with unspoken words, with the echo of expectations that had long since died. I knew, deep down, that something fundamental had shifted between Valerie and me, though I hadn't yet grasped the full weight of it. We had the house, the kind you aspire to, nestled in Plano, Texas, a big garage, a finished basement, all the trappings that signal you've arrived. Yet, despite the veneer of success, our life together had started to feel less like a shared journey and more like a carefully maintained exhibit, an unspoken agreement to simply coexist. I'm Michael, 33 years old, and 5 years earlier, I'd stood across from Valerie, promising forever. Now, our days unfolded with a different rhythm. I worked in logistics management, a field that demanded 50-hour weeks, supply chain puzzles, and vendor negotiations that didn't switch off when I walked out the office door. I earned a comfortable living, pulling in around $125,000 a year. Valerie, a project manager, made about $78,000. But it was the work at home that felt increasingly solitary. Every weekend, I was in the yard, tending to the lawn. I kept both our cars running smoothly, managed our investments, and surprisingly often, found myself cooking most of our dinners. The house, too, demanded constant attention: furnace filters, gutters, bleeding radiators, all the invisible tasks that kept a home functional, yet were only ever noticed when they stopped. Lately, Valerie's contributions were less about shared effort and more about a new lexicon she'd adopted. It had begun about 8 months prior, around the time her cousin, Brooke, started hosting weekly get-togethers. Brooke was a peculiar force of nature, the kind of person who discovered social justice in her late 20s and then made it the lens through which everyone else's life was scrutinized. She was quick with strong opinions, despite never holding a job for more than 6 months. Valerie would return from these gatherings armed with fresh vocabulary, mental load, emotional labor, patriarchal expectations. Suddenly, everything I did, every effort I made, was either insufficient, problematic, or, somehow, oppressive. The intimate pulse of our marriage began to fade. What was once a routine of twice a week, then twice a month, dwindled to nothing. Her rejections weren't gentle, either. They'd arrive with an irritated sigh, a subtle suggestion that my very desire was an imposition, an annoyance. Then came the wedding ring. She'd stopped wearing it, claiming it needed cleaning. 2 months passed, and I'd still see it in her jewelry box, sitting there in her dresser, not with a jeweler, but just abandoned, like a forgotten promise. Small disrespects started to accumulate, like pebbles in a shoe. While I spoke, she'd scroll through her phone, glancing up only to ask me to repeat myself. My attempts to share details of my day were met with eye rolls, an unspoken dismissal. Yet, I'd catch her smiling at her screen, a soft, intimate smile that she once reserved only for me, now directed at a digital conversation with someone else bottom left of screen, click full story.